With all these years of globalization, why does US decide to have a more localized supply chain and try to have more countries come along by building regional alliance?
Let me put it this way. This actually started 4 or 5 years ago. It's basically for United States at the time, it was a national security issue. United States government felt that they are not reliably able to source semiconductors for, let's say, for military purposes at reasonable way and secure the supply at the very, very leading edge chips. And it's particularly, the issue was more into that, so much of the manufacturing has been placed in places like Taiwan and Korea. At the same time, China's aggressive industrialization programs kind of created also a competitive concern. At the time, the recognition was that China didn't have the leading edge capabilities either. But the feeling was that given the aggressive investment in China, which has been continuing for years, is grave concern. So the origins were, let's say, purely from a national security military perspective. Now, during the COVID, the issue expanded substantially to a general supply chain security. There has been shortages across the industries that impacted significant U.S. domestic industries such as automotive, and that's probably the most visible of all those areas. Starting from the military, defense concerns, it's expanded for broader, and the feeling was the national security and the economic security requires, let's call it onshoring of the semiconductor manufacturing, at least to some degree, to U.S. So those are kind of where you have those two basic factors. One is pure defense-related and broader economy-related concerns. So that's basically the fundamental drivers there. The CHIPS Act has been just passed through the Congress and signed by the president as a law. So the supply chain is driven by commercial, I would say, primarily by commercial interests. It's really each of the companies are looking at their supply chain and managing their supply chain, basically reliability and the cost issues as a primary. And then if you look at the supply chain management, especially during the COVID, it has transitioned the cost of supplying into the reliability of the supply. That's where you see that shift taking place. You may want to source from multiple countries rather than a single country. You may want to have a certain redundancy in your supply chains. And it doesn't mean that the globalization is necessarily reduced, but it's diversified to a certain extent.
So when you say redundancy in the supply chain, does that mean it would actually become less effective?
Well, that's what it means. Redundancy means that you're necessarily less effective or you have additional capacity available for the company in different countries. The cost of having that extra capacity is much less than having no capacity. Effectively, you're buying an insurance to make sure that your operations are capable of delivering in all kinds of market conditions. That's what it means in practice.